Fundamentals of Chinese 3, Unit 4, dining. Dining out. Understand it. Turn to pages 32 and 32 to 34 in the textbook. Have a pen or pencil ready to take notes. Okay, so in this dialogue, we have Bai Ying-ai. Leo, that's right. We have Leo and Wang Peng going out to dinner. And so you should be able to decipher what this means here. I didn't put the translation here because you should be able to guess if they're dining out. They are 在饭馆. And you know 饭, this is 吃饭的饭. So 在饭馆. So what is a 饭馆? And if you guessed a restaurant, then you guessed correctly. So they get to the restaurant and the 服务员 at the restaurant says 请进, 请进. You should know what that means. Give you a couple seconds to think about it. Please come in, please come in. Okay. So Leo turns to Wang Peng and says, 人怎么这么多，好像一个位子都没有。人怎么这么多，好像一个位子都没有。Okay. 好像means it seems like, or it seems. 好像. So it appears that whatever this here says. 好像. "人怎么这么多，好像一个位子都没有。好像一个位子都没有。位子。位子 is the word for seat, like a seat in a restaurant, a seat on a plane or a bus or a train. 位子, a seat. It's not the word for chair. It's not the word for stool or chair or anything like that. It's specifically the word used when there is an available spot on some kind of transportation device, or like in a restaurant, or maybe like an amusement park ride. Are there any available spots left on the ride or seats left? A movie theater, for example. Weights. So what do you think this means? 人怎么这么多，好像一个位子都没有。I'll let you think about that for a few seconds. So you likely came up with something close to, why are there so many people? It seems that there isn't even one seat left. 好像 one seat 都没有. 都 means all. 都 is kind of hard to translate literally into English here. What's happening here is she's literally saying, it appears as if there isn't even one seat left. And 都 kind of carries the meaning of even. There isn't even one seat left. So 一个位子, one seat, even there isn't. Right? 都 here means all, but it kind of has this kind of meaning, so you have to translate it, into proper English. We would probably say even. There isn't even one seat left. 一个位子都没有. You can simply, rather than trying to, make sense out of this grammatically or word order or what have you, just remember this phrase right here, 一个位子都没有, and then you can replace 位子 with anything else, with anything you want. There's no apples left. 一个苹果都没有. There's no tea left. 一杯茶都没有了. There's no Coca-Cola left. 一瓶可乐都没有. Right? There isn't any Coca-Cola left. And so on. You get the idea. So this is just a useful phrase to just remember, and you can plug in the thing that there's nothing left of right here where 位子 is. Then I believe it's Wang Peng says 服务员请问还有没有位子? Okay, you should know what this means. First of all, 服务员 means waiter or attendant. Spelled that wrong. There we go. 服务 means service. 服务 means service. And 员 is a character that's used that they put on the end of something to denote that it's an individual that works in this capacity. So here you have a service worker. Yuan kind of means worker. So service worker. 服务 is service. Yuan is like worker. Service worker. In this case, waiter or attendant. So what does this sentence mean? 服务员请问还有没有位子? Give you about 5 seconds to think about what that means. And let's hope you come up with something close to waiter, excuse me, are there any tables left? Or seats. Are there any seats left? We wouldn't say are there any seats left. We would say are there any tables left. But in China, they don't say that. If you said 还有没有桌子, if you went into a restaurant and said 还有没有桌子, are there any tables left? They might understand what you mean, but they would look at you kind of strange, like, why are you saying it like that? Typically, they would say 还有没有位子? Are there any seats left? In a restaurant, they refer to that as seats. And then the 服务员 comes back and says 有那张桌子没有人有那张桌子没有人 Okay, 桌子 is table. I just used that in the previous slide. 桌子. So you should be able to sort this sentence out. Remember, previously, Wang Peng asked 还有没有 有没有 So remember, in Chinese, they usually respond to a question with the verb that you used. So Wang Peng used 有. So when the 服务员 responds, he responds saying 有 If there weren't any tables left, he would say 没有位子. Okay. In this case, 有那张桌子没有人. Okay, give you a few seconds to think about what that means. Yes. There is no one at that table. Yes. There is no one at that table. That 张 is a measure word for table. So it's kind of like 一个桌子一张桌子 张 is just a measure word. It means like a table. 张 So 那张桌子没有人 That table there is no people. Alright, then the 服务员 says 两位想吃点什么两位想吃点什么 Okay, 位 here is a measure word for people. So Wang Peng and Leo, they are two people. So the 服务员 says 两位想吃点什么 So what do you think that means? Give you about 5 seconds. I translated it as what do the two of you want to eat? They may have translated it differently in the book, but I say, what do the two of you want to eat? You two want to eat what? And this dr, you're familiar with this, putting this dr at the end of verbs like drink or eat. 吃点什么? What do the two of you want to eat? So Leo turns to Wang Peng and says, Wang Peng, 你点菜吧. 你点菜吧. So 点菜, you know, 菜 means like food, dishes. And 点 is the verb that Chinese use to order something. So in this case, 点菜 means to order food. So this is pretty simple. Think real quick about how you translate that. 5 seconds. So Leo says, Wang Peng, you order the food. So Wang Peng responds and says, 好. 好. 先给我们2盘饺子. 要素的. Okay. 好. 先给我们2盘饺子. 要素的. Okay. So first we have pan. Pan is the word for plate. And you see it kind of looks like there's something on a plate here in this character. Pan. Pan is the word for plate. 好. 先给我们2盘饺子. 要素的. 饺子 is dumplings. Dumplings are very popular in China, especially in northern China. 饺子. 好, 先给我们2盘饺子. 要素的. 素. 素 is the word or character that they use for vegetarian. So 好, 先给我们2盘饺子. 要素的. Okay, so 5 seconds, or pause if you want to. What does that mean? So Wang Pan says, okay, first we'd like 2 plates of dumplings. Vegetarian. So they want vegetarian dumplings. And then the 服务员 says, 除了饺子以外，还要什么? So you remember this construction, 除了 something 以外，还要什么? Or 还 whatever. So 除了饺子以外，还要什么? Pause and write down what you think that means. Okay, so here we have 除了饺子以外 besides dumplings. 除了饺子以外 besides dumplings. 还要什么? What would you like, or what else would you like, you could say, besides dumplings. Leo, 你说呢? So Wang Peng turns to Leo and says, Leo, 你说呢? Pause and write down what that means. Leo, what do you say? Or what do you want? Leo says, 还要一盘家常豆腐. 不要放肉. 我吃素. So this 素 you know already, we just learned it. So 还要一盘家常豆腐. 不要放肉. 我吃素. Okay, so this 家常豆腐 is just the name of a dish. The dish is called home style tofu. It's just a simple fried tofu dish. If you go to China to a Chinese restaurant, you can order 家常豆腐. 放还要一盘家常豆腐. 不要放肉. Right? 放 means to put. 放 means to put. So Leo doesn't want him to put something. 不要放肉. So what is 肉? 肉 is meat. Any kind of meat like beef or pork, etc. So 还要一盘家常豆腐，不要放肉，我吃素. Pause and write down what you think that means. So you likely come up with something close to, we also want a plate of home-style tofu. Don't use meat. Don't use meat while cooking the dish. I'm a vegetarian. 还要一盘家常豆腐，不要放肉，我吃素. 我们的家常豆腐没有肉. 我们的家常豆腐没有肉. So you know that. Pause and write down what you think that means. Our home-style tofu doesn't have meat. 还要2碗酸辣汤，请别放味精，少放点儿盐。有小白菜吗？ Okay. 还要2碗酸辣汤，请别放味精，少放点儿盐。有小白菜吗? Okay, so first we have this word 碗, and 碗 means bowl, a bowl. And you can see here this the radical here on this character is the radical for stone, rock, stone. And so back in the day, bowls were made of stone or rock. 还要2碗酸辣汤. Now this is the name of a dish, but you'll learn 3 characters out of it here. So the first one is 酸, and 酸 means sour. 酸 means sour. And so, you know, like hot and sour soup or sweet and sour sauce. Also, the word for yogurt uses this character 酸, that uses this character 酸 together with the character for milk, which is 奶. 酸奶 is the word for yogurt. 酸. 辣. 辣 is the character for hot or spicy. So you can't use 辣 to describe the temperature. You only can use 辣 to describe spicy food, something that's spicy. 辣. And then 汤 is the character for soup. So 酸辣汤 is hot and sour soup. Now we don't say sour and hot soup. We're in the habit of saying hot and sour soup, but in Chinese you have to swap it around and put the sour first. 酸辣汤. So 还要2碗酸辣汤，请别放味精，少放点儿盐。有小白菜吗? Okay, so what does she mean here by 请别放味精? So 味精 is the word for MSG, monosodium glutamate. And 味 is actually the word for flavor. And 精, so you kind of have like flavor enhancer. 味精, MSG. 请别放味精，少放点儿盐，少放点儿盐。So 少放, you learned 放 just a few slides back, which means to put. Shao means few. Shao feng, so it means put less. Put less. Put less yan or salt. Shao feng di'er yan. Don't use so much salt. Shao feng. Put a little less salt in there. Yan is the word for salt. Yo xiao bai cai ma? So the bai cai is bok choy. And there's various kinds of bok choy that they distinguish, and one of them is xiao bai cai. And that's kind of like the bok choy that you might find in the supermarket here. Bok choy. So now you should be able to pause and write down what you think this sentence means. 还要2碗，还要2碗酸辣汤，请别放味精，少放点儿盐。有小白菜吗？ And likely you came up with something very close to, we also want 2 bowls of hot and sour soup. Don't use MSG and not too salty. Do you have bok choy? And then the 服务员 comes back and says, 对不起，小白菜刚卖完，刚卖完。So 刚 means just. So just what? Just 卖完. So 卖完 means sold out. So 卖 means to sell something, buy and sell. You remember 买 is buy and 卖 is sell. You don't want to mix those two up, or you might be saying you want to buy something when you really want to sell something, or vice versa. But you take this character 完, which means to finish something, finish or complete something. So in this case, it's finished being sold, or like we like to say, sold out. So 对不起，小白菜刚卖完. So pause and write down what you think that means, please. Sorry, we are sold out of bok choy. 那就不要青菜了。 Okay, 那就不要青菜了。 I believe Wang Peng says, 那就不要青菜了。 青菜, Chinese have a word for leafy green vegetables, and that is 青菜. So 青菜 refers to any of the very leafy kind of green vegetables. Which 小白菜 is one of them. And so he says, 那就不要青菜了. We won't have any green leafy vegetables. So pause and write down what you think this means. Then we don't want any leafy vegetables. Quite simple. And then the 服务员 asks, 那喝点什么呢? 那喝点什么呢? Okay, so there's nothing new here for you. They've just ordered food, so after ordering food, well, it's kind of the opposite of the way that we do it here in the States, but after ordering food, what do you think the waiter's going to ask? Pause and write down what you think that means. And hopefully you came up with something close to, then what would you like to drink? 那 is like then. 那喝点什么呢? What would you like to drink? 我要一杯冰茶。理由，你喝什么? Okay, Bing is the character for ice. Bing is the character for ice. I think you learned 滑冰, which means ice skating. 滑冰, that's the same Bing. Bing is also the Bing that's used for ice cubes. And so Chinese, like Americans, also like Bing cha, which is iced tea. So you should be able to sort this out. 我要一杯 一杯冰茶. Leo, 你喝什么? Pause and write down what you think that means. And you likely came up with something a little bit close to, I would like an iced tea. Leo, what do you want to drink? All right, Leo says, 我很渴，请给我一杯可乐，多放点儿冰。我很渴，请给我一杯可乐，多放点儿冰。Okay, pause and write down what you think that means. Hi, so you likely came up with something. Actually, you haven't learned this word first. 渴 means thirsty. 渴我很渴，请给我一杯可乐，多放点冰。Okay, so now what do you think that means? Pause and write it down. I'm very thirsty. Please give me some cola with a lot of ice. Okay, so basically here, the 服务员 just repeats everything. So he says, 好，两盘饺子，一盘家常豆腐，两碗酸辣汤，一杯冰茶，一杯可乐，多放冰。And 还要别的吗？还要别的吗？ Right, pause and write down what you think this means. So like I said, he just repeats, okay, so that's 2 plates of dumplings, a plate of home-style tofu, 2 bowls of hot and sour soup, an iced tea, a glass of cola with extra ice. Anything else? 还要别的吗？还要别的吗？ Anything else? 还要别的吗？ And then I believe it's Wang Peng comes back and says, 不要别的啦，这些够了。服务员，我们都饿了，请上菜快一点儿。Okay, so first of all, we have this 不要别的啦，这些够了，够。So 够 is the word for enough. Okay, so 不要别的了，这些够了。And then he asks 服务员，我们都饿了，饿了，请上菜快一点儿。So 饿 is hungry. And you'll notice that this part of the character 饿 looks just like 我, the character for I. So 不要别的了，这些够了。服务员，我们都饿了，请上菜快一点吧。上菜. So what is this 上菜? So 上菜 just means to serve the food. Serve the food. So you have enough to go on here. Please pause and write down what you think this sentence means. And you likely came up with something very close to, we don't want anything else. This here is enough. Waiter, we are both hungry. Please serve the food quickly. And that's very common. I mean, in America, you would never say, hey, quickly, please, hurry up. Well, maybe in some instances you would, I'm not sure, but it sounds kind of rude to me. But in China, it's very common. I mean, all the time you'll hear, if you go out to eat with Chinese in Chinese restaurants, you'll hear them say, 上菜快一点吧. It's just a habit because I don't think that's really going to make them make the food any quicker. The 服务员 says, 没问题，菜很快就能做好。 没问题，菜很快就能做好. So pause and write down what you think that means. No problem. We can prepare your food quickly. And that concludes this Understand It video for Unit 4.